underrated animation. The Life and Times of Juniper. I absolutely love this show. This is a shout out to somebody who really got me through hard times in life. This guy named Mr. Enter literally broke the mold for what I thought was literally the craziest thing. So it was convenient at the time. So I started watching Mr. Enter at the time when literally things calmed down, where I wasn't really ambitious because, you know, I was a part of sport, and everybody that literally had drive and determination, you know, fucking didn't want to play anymore. So basically, you know, sport being the ARL, so literally the ARL was off season, so like literally fucking I stopped competing, I stopped having the competitive mindset, so I started looking at Mr. Enter's videos, and I noticed a whole lot of things that really came in handy, where it came to me, where it came to, you know, my videos, my vocal ability. It all came, it all started, it all literally got sprouted by Mr. Enter. When I figured out that he was autistic, it blew my mind because I had no idea that he was autistic. What gave it a hint was that it was kind of repetitive, like his editing is kind of repetitive, but it wasn't anywhere near like as entertaining as his voice, the way he presents his media, and literally freaking, I love Mr. Enter's mentality, but I feel like at the same time, you know, when I viewed him, it was at a great time because it showed me the other side of society. So Mr. Enter is kind of like a Chip in a different way. He does not like society, and I'm going to tell you why, because this is the perfect show. I had a very personal experience with the show that literally let me know why this is one of my favorite shows of all time, and why a lot of people make fun of me. So many people make fun of me for liking shows like this. Like, you like Camp Lasso, you like Life and Times of Juniper, you like this, that. Why don't you like the real cartoon? Why don't you fuck with Dexter? Why don't you complain that Cartoon Network isn't the same? Why don't you on Billy and Mandy? Why don't you this and that? Nigga, Foster's is better than that. All that fucking bullshit is the reason why Juniper was made. And I'm gonna get into that a little bit. But let's go into what it actually is, instead of what it's referencing. So if you don't know what the Life and Times of Juniper is, the Life and Times of Juniper is basically a mixture between Maya and Miguel and Kim Possible. So it really breaks the mold if you think about it, but it has a really big underrating because of literally the way the show is. A lot of people judge a book by its cover. Oh, we don't want this, like literally this fruity haired girl literally like having superpowers, this, that. And do you know the real reason why that is? I love the example this cartoon gives. This cartoon is heavily slept on because it aired at the time where haymakers like Billy and Maddie, fucking Codename Kids Like Store, everything else is in its prime. But then you have Juniper, and you know, fucking, it has a great theme song, but they keep on saying that, yo, it has a good theme song, and it has nothing else. It has shitty characters and this and that, literally, some Peter shit, literally, something my best friend would criticize. What makes the show great, and why it's heavily slept on, is that it was way ahead of its time. What they did, it showed you a different example of a girl from a different agriculture. Kim Possible is white, and people, that flies over a whole bunch of people's heads. Of course Kim Possible is going to be better. Not because he's white, because it's actually written better, but at the same time, that's the prime example. Literally, we have a young Latina girl, I mean, it looks like she's Latina, but she claims she's Chinese, but literally, it doesn't matter. It's literally, and that's one thing a lot of people fail to realize. Like, literally, a fucking brother's name is Ray Ray, and I don't see any fucking, like, Hispanic, don't Latin, don't none in that. Yeah, that's foolish shit. But anyway, though, the thing that makes the cartoon stand out is that it's referencing a whole lot of things from, you know, Greek mythology. It has a whole lot of everything going on. It covers racism, it covers people in society, it covers best friendship, it covers a whole lot of things that, because the people that were viewing it at the time were not social, that's the reason why it was so great. So literally, there was this one time where I even made a Juniper YouTube poop, and fucking Peter deleted it on his channel, and literally, he did not like the Life and Times of Juniper because he always compares it to fucking stupid shit. I'm like, it's not supposed to be a heavy hitting show, but it literally, it gives you a different aspect of life. That's why I love this show, because the theme song is phenomenal. A1, one of the best theme songs I've ever heard. And you know what they say about me at theme songs? Eric, you always like the theme song, but the show ends up rack. But if you actually listen to the meaning, if you actually pay attention to the lyrics, you understand where it's a top class show, because you don't care about, you know, fitting in teenagers at the time. And when you're looking at Juniper, when you become an adult, I guarantee you will view the show in a different aspect. You have to understand that there are multiple stereotypes within that show that make it great, but that's why it got slept on, because literally it was a very, very social and political, somewhat of, at home cartoon. Victor and Valentino cannot do anything, no matter how many specials they have. I mean, how much Lily references they actually have in fucking Mexico. There's no way that they can mount to Juniper Lee where it comes to actually referencing the struggle of an actual lifestyle. This is a girl who has real superpowers, who's way physically stronger than Kim Possible. The feats of Juniper Lee are unstoppable. She's as strong as a Dragon Ball Z character, and nobody gives her credit. And because the fact that she's a girl, and the fact that Lily, that she's feminine, is the reason why we don't like it at the time. When I was young, I loved the Lifetime Juniper Lee, but I can see why nobody else liked it, because they kept on comparing it to Billy and Maddie, and that's a problem with my generation. That is the big ass problem with my generation. Shout out to Mr. Anchorman. This is a really, really underrated show because of what it's trying to convey, what it's trying to portray is literally so intentional, it's not even funny. They have beautiful storylines, like when that guy was Loki's son. See, literally, she fell in love with the son of a demon. That's the actual reality of the situation. He's like, and since he's a superhero, she comes to his cave and he's like, Loki's your dad and you didn't tell me? And that's the real reason why that show is great, but nobody wants to pay attention to that. Everybody wants to say that it's whack. If I want to see girls kicking ass and baby and Powerpuff Girls, I don't like how the show this and that. What the fuck is like I'm like, you guys attack the red strain in her hair, thinking that it makes her look bad, when literally that is the utmost stylish. When you grow up and you see bitches with hair extensions, when you actually fuck bitches that look like her, you understand a whole lot why this cartoon is phenomenal. Like I said, things are very self-explanatory. A lot of things are self-explanatory in life. The only thing that comes with complexity is literally experience. If you come across a situation where people are hitting you with complex shit without experience, and you have no right to stay on it, but you have every right to sit back and be like, yo, you're taking this shit too seriously. So that is literally how you combat somebody who literally tries to degrade beautiful shit with constructive criticism and morals. And I'm telling you, nothing is better than Juniper Lee's morals, because literally it shows you a whole lot of people. There are so many great characters on set, but they're not expanded upon because all the characters are short-ended. You see, what happens is they have a great base of characters, but they don't expand on them for a reason. That shit was 100% intentional for it to be racked. That was for you to view the situation instead of viewing the characters. You see, there's this guy named Roger who's actually based on a white guy who tries too hard to be black, but they can't portray that in a children's cartoon, but that's what he's based off of. When you understand what cartoons are actually referencing, you have a whole lot more passion for it. So Lily, so her little brother Ray Ray is literally a little kid that's like on sugar, that's like crack. I loved Ray Ray. Ray Ray literally just a perfect display of a little brother, and they still have the right to literally say, oh, this cartoon's rack. This the demons, the plot. Literally, it's way more deep than Kim Possible because it's actually dealing with Mexican philosophy, because a lot of, the Latin culture revolves around God and revolves around being spiritual. So that show is so fucking on point when it comes to referencing Latin culture. It's not even fucking funny. So the real reason why people make fun of it is because they didn't understand it. It's ahead of its time. Literally, fucking the main problem is a girl thing in the school, and her school crest has dreads. You guys don't think about that. You guys don't think about literally fucking the complex situation that she's put in. Her best friend, Ophelia, literally has one of the best grips. But we live in a society, I love Ophelia. She's one of my favorite characters. Julia's my favorite, but Ophelia is my second. It then goes down to the British dog. How the fuck did you not like the dog with the greatest action? Literally, so much great shit that happens in that show. I love that show. It literally, it describes a great fucking family. A talking dog with a British accent. They combine Brian and Stewie, and you still have the right to hate on that show. No, Life and Times of Juniper Lee was great. Great theme song, great artwork, but the reason why it didn't get enough attention was because it's specifically written not to be that deep on the outside. You have to look into it, and that is one of those many shows. They want haymakers like Billy and Maddie. They want everything to be self-explanatory. Look, Life and Times of Juniper Lee was written for it to lack comedy. It left a whole lot of comedy when they're talking about, you decided to put the mall in the middle of an ocean. That shit's hella funny when you become an adult. But when you're young, you're comparing it to shit like Billy and Mandy all day. But that's why it aired at the same time, so people wouldn't catch the message. Ophelia is really raw. She's literally one of the best characters I've ever known when it comes to animation and fiction. But the real problem with that is there's not enough Ophelia. There's not enough of the fan favorites. The reason why they're not expanded upon was for you to specifically view the show that way. Juniper Lee is made for you to hate it. It's made for you to literally, if you're over analytical nerd, if you're a white person who literally expects everything to be back in time, expects everything to be the same, it's made for you to think, oh, this show is rack, this, that. But when you get older, you're going to realize that all those formulas, the drip, the theme song, literally, the interactions within people. Those are the formulas you get to get girls. And when you get older and you rely on the same shit, like, you, that bad beat, sweat dripping down your leg bones, literally, that's not realistic at all. That's not, you have to understand that is the reason why my generation is fucked. Every single episode of Juniper League revolves around a situation, revolves around her trying to solve a problem, instead of actually, going on a miscellaneous adventure that literally expands the problem. It's a very mature cartoon. A whole lot of people don't want to view it like that. Like when her grandma literally tried to say, "Oh, I'm just getting older." That is some real ass shit, and it's slept upon because of how much it had to compete with comedy gold mines like Cold Lane Kids Next Door and all the other shows that were action-packed that had a whole lot more deep writing. It was specifically made for you to view it as just okay, but people view it as trash. In reality, if you actually want to give it a rating, it's just okay because it's written specifically for you not to enjoy it that much, but specifically for somebody like, me or somebody else who really is used to socializing. That's why there's so many races in that. So that's why Roger is right. That's why Ophelia is, Mexican. That's why June is Chinese. That's why Marcus is a black guy with dreads. They put so many stereotypes in. Marcus is June's crush. So the whole entire time when she's a fucking superhero, she's trying to fit in school, trying to impress Marcus. So you gotta understand, like, that is a crazy ass storyline, but people don't want to view it that way, and that's why that show is ahead of its time. It epic foreshadowed how everybody was gonna be in the fashion, how everybody was going to be, aware of the situation instead of being oblivious. It's basically, it united fucking nerds and fucking real shit, which is what real people are on. We live in a day where literally we have to literally accept the fact that what we grew up on wasn't 100% true. That doesn't mean you can't make the best out of it. That's a situation a lot of people are put in today. And you have to understand that when it comes to literally the real shit in Juniper League, it can't be topped. I've never seen any other cartoon that literally took the risk like that. It's because they made it lame is why you can see the actual message in real life. That cartoon was made to portray a message about how different families work and literally how different people interact with each other. And the relationship with the demons also come from, really big obsessions in life, really, really life disappointments. He has a secret connection with every single demon he fights if you actually watch the show closely. Kim Possible is always going to be better, of course, but you can't really compare Kim Possible, but it was made for you to look at it in a different aspect. Like, she was in the same position as Kim. Oh, it's just a normal, heroine that's trying to go to school, that's trying to fit in society. No, this is somebody with actual multiple handicaps instead of just one. Like, literally, Kim Possible, like, in a short summary, is a girl who already has a good standing in society and literally has an issue with keeping around in the friend zone, where literally June is trying to adapt to everything. She's trying to adapt to her skin color. She's trying to adapt to literally making time out to go out on dates and stuff like that, where literally it's not an issue for Kim, but it's a big issue for June. And they even stated in the theme song, and that's what makes it dramatically different from Kim Possible. And that's the real reason why people don't view it that way. I'm like, June kicks ass. June is super strong. June has everything going for her, and you guys want to blame it on the fucking theme song. And I'm tired of people thinking like that. I'm tired of people ignoring all the positives in the show, thinking that it's free and gay because you don't want to look at the outer exterior of what it's trying to portray. I'm sorry, there's too many good things going for the show. They have a talking dog where there's action. They have a little brother that literally acts like he's on crack. They have a girl struggling going through school. They have Marcus literally being the coolest kid in school. Like, literally, somebody fight crime from literally is always on their mind. It's really, really deep. And there was a really good episode where Ophelia is literally the most badass character in the show, and she actually ends up dancing with Roger, the rackiest character in the show, for a school dance. And that's really, really good writing, and I really love that about Juniper League. When you really know how situations work and learn how life pans out, you're gonna love Juniper League, and you're not gonna view it as just your average cartoon anymore. Like, because as an adult, I loved it, and literally, it broke the mold. So let me get into a little of personal experience I had with Juniper League. So I was watching that show literally, last year when I was trying to get a job because I was trying to get a date with my girl Layla. And literally, what happened was this. So I was talking to Layla when I literally was on my way to get an interview, and the guy knew I was going to have a hot date. So literally, the guy played games like, oh, we'll contact you in 4 days. So literally, so I had this thing going on. So if you pay attention to my flight school, when I had my first job, if you go back to season 2 and go back to my job video, the best job I've had video, you gotta realize that literally I had this thing going on where girls wouldn't really care about literally the fact that I was watching a cartoon. They're viewing it in a complex way because I would watch shit like Yu-Gi-Oh! GX, shit with perfect dialogue. It was in English, there was fucking no problem, a great theme song to get you hooked, and we have sexy ass Alexis Rhodes, who also looks super popular, so the girls would really love when I watched Yu-Gi-Oh! GX on my job. So like literally they would get into the theme song and they would love the graphics of the show and they loved Alexis. There was nothing more to argue. And literally we break down shit like, oh, don't you know that you're watching a Japanese cartoon? No, none of that shit went through their minds. All they talking about was fun. All they see is fun. And that's how literally girls work nowadays. So it went from, Yu-Gi-Oh! GX and It's Crazy theme song, and then back when I went to Home Depot, I was watching Code Lyoko just to get by. And so for the talking job, I had planned like, you know what, it's gonna be a good thing for my base. I'm gonna watch the Life and Times of Juniper, and they're gonna love that. They're gonna love everything about that. They're gonna love the talking dog with the green section. Yeah, every fucking girl of every age is gonna like that. Sorry, buddy, but that's how people view shit. That's how the human mind works without influence. When you put something in somebody's mind, literally to corrupt it, it's going to be fucked up. But when you literally let things play out like so naturally, they're gonna love that shit no matter what. That's why my grandma loved all of the other reindeer. It's so fucking cringy, the fact that these people are so judgmental, thinking that, like, literally, this is how shit is without their influence, and literally, they do not want to believe it. And so literally, and so rumor on the street had it that I literally was watching Juniper Police. So I made a YouTube poop on Peter's channel because fucking my brother gave him his own YouTube account because, me and Peter grew up in special ed and Peter didn't know how to make an email account. So literally fucking Peter like had a YouTube poop of mine on his channel, and once he heard that I was watching Juniper Police, he deleted the shit off of his channel. And he's like, like, nigga, I made that shit. Nigga, I gave that to you. That's your fucking problem, Peter. That's your big ass problem, Peter. It's like, it's my channel. I can choose to delete while I his head. He was laughing, but literally, when he saw it was going fake, he got smacked in real life. And that is where it happens when you have a false identity, when you have a false sense of power, when you have a false sense of literally what's going on. Like, I gave you that shit, and you feel like you taking it away as anything. Well, I've already made a name for myself. You have to think, Peter. You have to think. People who literally try to say Juniper Police is whack, who's trying to say this and that. So guess what happened? Fucking, because the grapevine happened, another person reacted. It didn't matter how old he was, but don't think if it wasn't for Juniper Police, what happened is he was gonna like negotiate with me. But because literally they heard, oh my god, he's gonna put that theme song at the job, and so that's why he delayed it for an extra day. So that extra day I came to a job and I told him, yo, what's up? You said 4 days, and literally he's like, what? And literally fucking. And I'm like, were you trying to play with my emotions? You can say that to somebody who's trying to get at you foul. And literally, that grown man stuttered, that grown man did this and that, all because he was wrong. It had nothing to do with the fucking cartoon. It had nothing to do with this and that. It had to do with, I had a hot date coming up, and I had something to maintain my job. I had the life and times of Juniper Police to maintain my job, and I had a hot date coming up. So literally, they saw a pattern with every single job. I had something to fall back on, and so that instead of socializing, I'm watching fucking anime on my break, and they want me to socialize, and they want me to get me in a situation that gets me in trouble. And that literally is the reason why I fuck with Juniper Police, because I was a grown man at the time, and literally, I still had no problems with it. I loved it more than ever. I love how complex June is as a character. She views everything as a drag, but she also knows how to have fun. She's a very reasonable character, unlike a whole lot of other characters that are written. So if you gotta ask me, it's a perfect example of how society works today. Epic First Out is so much shit, and that's why it's so fucking complex. That's why it's so colorful and so vivid. But everybody says it's ass and this and that. Like, it hasn't. There are elements in that cartoon that haven't been expanded upon, but that's why it wasn't in the front line. That's the reason why it was hidden. And then you have to understand that that's why it was low tier. Everybody else, like the hard haymakers, are going on because we're not allowed to view that shit in society. We're not allowed to portray that message. What if Juniper Police did have good dialogue and this and that? People wouldn't shut the fuck up about it. People would go crazy about it, like fucking Rugrats and shit. You have to understand that. So this is a big shout out to Mr. Enter, and that's the whole reason why that show was created. Big Easter egg was to show that we live in a fucked up society, that we lived in a somewhat racist society, and that reason why it was totally different from Kim Possible was because of her social standing in Lily. Her race, her nationality, and her personality interfered with the show. And Kim Possible, they did none of that. None of the times when Kim Possible's inner conflictions got in the way of the plot, because Kim is not only used to her job, she loves her job, and that's the big difference between Kim and June. This show taught me a whole lot about life, literally. I watched it, literally, on the way thinking I was about to get the job, so literally, it didn't taste mortality, but it truly helped me figure out why people are full of shit, and I had nothing to hide at the time. I can get a girl, I can get everything, and I felt nothing wrong watching this cartoon that I used to watch when I was a kid, and I realized there were so many more grown adult references in it, it wasn't even funny. I'm not trying to, be a dictator. I'm not trying to do this and that, but I guarantee you, if you view a whole lot of things the way I view Juniper, you will become a better person, and you will think before you act a whole lot more when it comes to life. You will stop believing the complex bullshit stories that people tell you and actually think about a logical conclusion, a logical answer. Literally, the Life and Times of Juniper teaches you everything about that. Literally, it teaches you about literally how to keep a low profile, like literally knowing what's good and what's not, like literally being famous and doing everything else is really exaggerated. It teaches you about all that shit, Fucking, she has a very extravagant life, but she'd rather live basic. And the political arguments she begin with literally all these different monsters and all them are literally are playing off people in society. It's a really good show, and you have to look at it at a political standpoint. You have to look at what it's referencing in order to really get into that show. So without further ado, this is Underrated Animation. Shout out to Mr. Enter. I love Mr. Enter, and this is Underrated Animation, The Life and Times of Juniper.